Next up for the Dons, it's a trip to Glasgow and to Celtic Park, where possibly for the first time in 72 years, Celtic could lose 5 in a row. Kick-off in Glasgow is at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon UK time. So let's put everything into context after a host of games played today in the Scottish Premiership. Dundee United and Hibs drew 1-1, which was probably a good result for us. Falkirk beat Kilmarnock 1-0. Motherwell beat Dundee by a 1-0, so they've kind of stretched their lead a wee bit at the top half of the table. And St Mirren continued their good form by beating bottom side Livingston by a 0-0. But as you can see, we currently still sit 6th. We're just a point behind Hibs now. Nothing but a win tomorrow would really do to climb that table. And also interesting to note that Hearts take on Rangers tomorrow. So something could give there as well. It's an interesting day in the Scottish Premiership tomorrow. How are you doing? A very warm welcome to Ali Beg ABTV this Saturday night ahead of what is a very important game at Celtic Park tomorrow. Have you ever known in our recent past a game where Celtic are absolutely there for the taking? Andrew Budge and I have spoken today. We spoke earlier today due to the time difference as he lives in Australia. And we chewed the fat over the possible lineup, how we should set up and what we should expect. So I'm going to give that to you in just a moment. We'll start the show with Andrew's chat. We've got the normal bits and pieces for you as well this evening. Interesting that Nicky Devlin has come out today. Spoke to Scott Burns from the Daily Record. He's looking for his first win at Celtic Park as an Aberdeen player. And he's also mentioned the importance of giving something back to the fans, which I'm in total agreement with, because I think the players need to be conscious of those who travelled to Prague on Thursday, spent a lot of money doing so for us to put in what was a really poor performance, take away, I believe, the first 15 minutes or so. So, like, I think it's most definitely a winnable game. But again, like what I said yesterday, it's so interesting to read the comments where it would just be typical Aberdeen, where we just basically go down there and get beat 5 or 6-0. I hope to God that does not happen, because I want us to get at Celtic tomorrow. Not go gung-ho, not go absolutely mad, but I think we need to absolutely get at them from the off. Press high. Unsettle them as quickly as we can. Unsettle the crowd. Because if we unsettle the crowd, that will filter down to the players. And all that will do is start adding anxiety to their play. Then we can really get at them. So, it's most definitely a winnable game. Come on, have your say. Tell me how you're feeling about the game. A question that I posed to Andrew, which I'd like to pose to you guys as well. Should we be bold tomorrow? I mean, as in really bold, and potentially play Marco and Kevin on the pitch at the same time from the off. What do you think? Right. Excuse me. Dearie me. Right. So let's get Andrew Budge on first, so Andrew and I can speak about the game. The predicted lineup is in this chat. So come and see me on the other side and tell me what you think. Welcome back to the show, Andrew Budge. Hello, mate. It's really good to see you. Thank you so much for jumping on. Okay, so we've got a rather big game tomorrow. We've got quite a bit to get through as well. First of all, what I'd like to ask you is, do you think this is our best chance to beat Celtic, considering that we've not beaten them there since 2018? And also, a sort of a double-edged question to that is, I've just got a horrible feeling that we're just going to do a typical Aberdeen. I don't really know where to go with it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We were talking off air, whenever a team's in a bad run of form, I just feel like if you roll up Aberdeen and get us to turn up to your ground, I feel like we'll give you a helping hand sometimes. Yeah, I know it's a great chance. We were saying before, I think this is as weak as I've seen Celtic starting 11 wise in a long time, and add in this sort of change in manager and what a sort of disastrous couple of weeks he's had. It really is a great opportunity for us to take something away. I can't believe it's 2018 is the last time. That was the Constantine, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh geez, that feels like a long time ago. Yeah, they've looked really weak in recent weeks. Even just going through their 11 from Dundee United at midweek, it's sort of Kenny and Yang, Trusty, Ralston, McCowan. A lot of these wouldn't be starters in other years. So I really feel like their starting 11 has been weakened with some injuries and some players who are just completely out of form. Schmeichel's really having a tough time of it as well. And yeah, like we said before, if you just add in the change of manager, it seems like he's tried to change a lot in terms of formation and style. He's got games every sort of 3 days, just like us in Europe at the moment, and in league in Europe, and doesn't seem to have much time on the training pitch. So sounds like he might have been a little bit over ambitious for what he can change in
Mm.
that team so quickly. So yeah, it gives us a great opportunities to sort of capitalise on it. I don't think they've been as bad as maybe they're reported to be. I think they could have had at least a couple of wins from the spell. They certainly should have beat Dundee United midweek. They should have been three or four ahead at half time. And then Hearts, I think they had a couple of good chances in the first half. But yeah, as we said before, this is our opportunity to capitalise on it. So let's hope they do it.
Okay, we're going to name our team, the team that we think will start. But before we do that, I've got to ask you, and I think I know what the answer will be, but I've got to ask you, do you think we should be bold and play two up top, as in Marco and Kevin together?
I really like the idea of it, to be honest. I think from looking, I've watched a bit of Celtic recently, and they've really struggled against forward twos. They line up in their 3-4-3, and their back three is looking really makeshift at the moment with the likes of Tierney, Ralston, Trusty was the back three midweek. I think if we were bold enough, whether we'll do it is another question, but I really think Laz Titch in this bit could give that back three a lot of problems. Whether we'll do it is another question because I guess we've been really wedded to this formation in the past sort of 3 months. And
Mm.
it's always been one up top, and we rarely even see two strikers on the pitch together. It's usually like for like substitutions in the second half. I would like to see it, but I think it's unlikely that it'll happen. At the very least, I'd like to see us leave men forward, even if it's not a front two. I'd like to see Keskinen or Carlson or Armstrong push quite high to really sort of go not man for man against their back three, but I really want to sort of give their back three something to think about and really just give them a tough game. So I think we should be pretty bold and try and leave men a little bit higher than we usually do at Celtic Park because how often have we seen us get sucked into our own half in defence and it's just we give them too much respect. So I think I would like to see us be a bit bolder, but yeah, I don't think the team will be that exactly.
Mm. Okay, so do you think that he'll just stick with what he's stuck with over the past few weeks? And then if we do, is that how he's going to set up?
Yeah, I think it will be pretty similar, to be honest. I think it will be sort of our usual back three of Devlin, Milne, Knuster.
Yeah,
I reckon it'll be probably something similar to fullbacks. I'd like to see Lobben. I'd like to see him play.
yeah.
It'll probably be Jensen wing back left, maybe. I think he's
Mm,
done okay recently. I think he gets a lot of criticism, sometimes unfairly, with it being a position he's not too suited to. But I think he'll probably go with him rather than Gyamfi and Shinnie had a tough game against Forest last year, so it'd probably be Jensen. And I definitely think it should be Ashish and Polvara because they've been brilliant recently.
yeah,
And then the front threes, yeah, there's a couple of sort of question marks there whether it'll be Keskinen. I like the idea of playing Keskinen and Carlson, to be honest, even though Armstrong has been great recently. I think that pace of Keskinen in behind Celtic could be really sort of a good outlet for us. They leave a lot of space in behind, so his sort of runs in behind could be really helpful. And although he played or started midweek, I'd like to see Laz Titch because I think his physical presence could be sort of really key for us in holding the ball up and getting others into play. You mentioned before about how I think we should approach the game. If we're not playing a front two, I'd like to see us be, as I said before, really sort of direct and have men forward that we can hit on the counter attack quickly. We mentioned before that they've really struggled against the back two, whether it's sort of Braga and Shankland against Hearts or against Ndundalu and Ayunga in the cup final. I think St Mirren gave us a really good template to follow and how to play against them. Really direct, play quickly. I don't think we should be too open playing out because I mean we just saw what happened midweek.
Yeah, yeah.
We kind of shot ourselves in the foot there. I'd like to see us just make it really difficult for the first 20 minutes for them and let the fans sort of get on their back because I think that atmosphere will be really tricky for them if we can get to sort of half time at 0-0 or even 1-0 ahead. But yeah, I just want to see us aggressive, play forward quickly. And another big one is just make the most of set pieces because they've conceded a set piece goal in every game
Have
this
they?
season so far under Nancy, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
against Roma, Hearts, St Mirren, and Dundee United. So even if the first delivery isn't on point, sort of second phases, just really, I would really like to see us just go direct and just test them because I think that back three is there to be gotten at. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I got to be honest. It's like what I said last night on the review show. I just want us to put the ball into the mix. I think
Yeah,
we're guilty at the moment of not doing that frequently.
yeah.
We're sort of dilly-dallying on the ball and playing all these fancy little flicks, and it's just get the bloody thing into the box and see what happens. I really hope we do that tomorrow.
Yeah, I think Lobben's got a great delivery on him. He's shown glimpses of putting really good deliveries into the box, so I'd be encouraging that a lot. I think we struggled down the left with it not being Jensen's natural foot, so I
Yeah,
think he often sort of turns back. But
yeah.
even I think you just have a go. Professional footballers swing something in with your left foot. As I'd probably be practicing it sort of off the pitch. But yeah, I think we should be a lot more direct. I think we'll struggle to play through them if we're going to have the same sort of success as we did on the ball as we did midweek. So yeah, just really sort of get at them and just test that back three because I think it's there to be got at.
All right, fella, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on as always. Enjoy the game, and we'll speak again very soon.
Perfect. Thanks, Ali.
Brilliant. Thanks, mate. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you as always, Andrew. Don't forget, Alibeg ABTV is brought to you and supported by Saltire Energy, the global market leader in specialist drilling equipment rental, and they also offer a number of other services: torquing, testing, refurbishment, and welding. Right, here's your match facts. So Aberdeen have lost 35 and won just one of our past 38 league visits to Celtic, going winless in our last 12 matches. To add to that, in the last 10 meetings of obviously which we've run 0, we have conceded 32 goals and only scored 9. Since the start of October though, the Dons have earned more points in the Premiership than any other side, winning 7 of our 10 league games. In Celtic's entire history, only in October 1947 and April 1953 have they ever suffered 5 defeats in a row. Our referee tomorrow is David Dickinson. On VAR duty is Greg Aiken. Right, let's start opening it up to you. Got a rather good on this day coming up shortly. Right, so let's see how we're doing. Cameron Young says, "Hello Ali, really hope we can get the result against Celtic tomorrow as they are not in good form and under Nancy, but it's always tough down there, but hopefully we can get the win." Gordon Keith says, "Good evening Ali, happy Super Cup day to all dandies. Just have a go tomorrow. Our Celtic are not in great form, but hopefully they don't get their form back." Mad Mark is here wishing you a good evening. He says severe doubts about tomorrow, but Celtic seem to be in turmoil, so you never know. David Horn is here. How are we doing, David? You fine? Neil is also here wishing you a good evening. The Galaglass says, "Really got to be on it from the start, and Mitov can't risk these passes. A goalkeeper has to have a 100% pass rate. He can't take risks so close to his box." Could not agree more, fella. Sheep on Fire says, "I really hope we can get a win, but just not convinced, which is really annoying, as I think if we play we can, to the way we can, Hang on, this doesn't quite make sense. I really hope we can get a win, but just not convinced, which is really annoying, is I think if we play, we can do it. Got you. If we can play, we can do it. Struggled to play 2 halves this season. It's not over by half time. If it's not over by half time, I think we can win. Mad Mark came back to say Mitov's distribution is pretty dodgy. He tends to kick long or at strange angles, and despite kicking all the way to the opposing keeper, he always tries for more distance. Maybe he wants to score. Joe Christie says, good evening all. Going to be a tough game. Need to start off quickly, use the high press and dominate as much as we can. Celtic are rocking at the minute. We need to use that vulnerability. Bob is here. How are we doing, Bob? Big game tomorrow. Time for big hearts and big balls. Do we have those? I don't think so, but prepared to be proven incorrect. He came back to say, at the end of the season, what would be deemed acceptable? For me, with this being Yimmy's second season, anything worse than 4th place is not acceptable. The Scottish Cup is a lottery. Neil says, Cup final, same performance. Fight, heed first. Al Hay says, hi Ali, I hope we play our strongest team tomorrow, which should include Gyamfi and Bilalovic and Armstrong with Lazatic up front. My main concern is Mitov giving away the ball, but we can do it. Bob came back to say, with the level of financial muscle given to Yimmy, massive question marks hanging over him. European football is done. There are now no excuses. He also said 100% Bilalovic needs to start tomorrow. Mate, I think you could be absolutely right, and I did wonder about that. But I think he'll go with Toppy to bring Kennan on a little bit later. Malcolm Hutchinson is here. He says, if your team has a problem and no one else can help you, you need a visit from the A-team. John Paul said, great chance of beating, a beating for us tomorrow. We are mince, he says. Whoa. Mad Mark came back to say, I expect we will try and sit in and go for it in the last 20 minutes, by which time we could already be a couple of goals down. I'm not sure we're going to wait that long, mate. I hope because as Andrew mentioned, Celtic had chances to put the game to bed even before half-time against Dundee United. And I think if we make silly mistakes tomorrow, which I hope to God we don't, they will punish us. They will. They will absolutely punish us. Saying that, how many chances did Celtic miss on Wednesday night? Unbelievable. Bob Duff says, not agreeing with that starting lineup, Ali, but it's all about opinions. Kennan, in for Toppy, and Stewart, in for Dante. We'll come to that in a moment, Bob. Thank you. Neil says, Mitov passing to Milne with his back turned puts the young loon under pressure. David Gold here, wishing you a good evening. Joe Christie is also here. He said, wouldn't be surprised to see Shinnie and Armstrong starting. He tends to like experience in midfield. Bob came back to say, Shinnie won't start tomorrow after playing so long on Thursday. I agree. Paul Donaldson, hi Ali, just got back in the door from Prague after 2 hours on a plane and 5 hours on a train. Glad to get my feet up for the rest of the night. Welcome home, Paul. Kenny Luke says, it would just be our luck that Celtic players, even though they're not comfortable with Nancy and play their way, if they do, we're going to have a very difficult game. Bob came back and said, have faith, Kenny. Mad Mark came back to say aye, but Yimmy T said in an interview he likes us to go for it round about the last 20 minutes. Yeah, let's see what happens. So, let me gently remind you at this juncture, before we move on, that Ali Beg AB TV is also brought to you by Craig International, a global procurement company with offices all over the world, down in South Africa, in America, in Houston. They're also up in Calgary, and they're also at home in Aberdeen with their base offices. They're in Germany, in Hamburg, And they also serve the Middle East in Qatar, in Dubai and Oman. If you're in the Far East, particularly in and around Singapore, and you're looking for procurement services, they have an office in Singapore, and they're also down in Australia as well. So wherever you are in the world, if procurement is for you, nobody does it better than Craig International. Right, so let me just see if there's any other comments coming in. Steve Williamson is here. How are we doing, Steve? Neil came back to say the players have to be at it from the off. None of these slow starts. It's getting bad. We cannot afford to start the game badly tomorrow. We have to, as strange as this may sound, we actually have to start like how we started in Prague, which was a high press, playing good, nice one-touch football, getting players forward. And as Andrew says, quite rightly, if we can bring one of our deeper midfielders further forward in support, whoever is playing up front, and with the two lads overlapping either side, it's going to cause them problems. They're so vulnerable at the back. And I just don't want us to go to Celtic Park with any sort of fear whatsoever. And I want us to hurt Celtic tomorrow. I want us to lay a glove on them. It's vital if we're going to get anything out of this game. We cannot start the game passively and give them any sort of encouragement in the opening 15 to 20 minutes. Because I think if we do, I think they will grow more and more into the game, and I think we'll end up chasing shadows. We have to get at them from the off. We have to unsettle them. We have to make them anxious. Because I think if we do, we've got a hell of a chance to beat them tomorrow. Right, let's chat a little bit of history. So on this day, back in 1903, Aberdeen beat European champions SV Hamburg to win the UEFA Super Cup 2-0 on aggregate. Mark McGee and Neil Simpson with the goals to ensure that later in that year, towards the end of the year, the Dons were crowned the finest team in Europe. On this day, back in 2007, the Dons beat the much-fancied FC Copenhagen 4-0 to secure their path to the knockout stages of the UEFA Cup. All the goals coming in the second half. What an unbelievable night that was. Right, just before we chat about that, Quipco International, also sponsor us here on the channel. They service the oil and gas industry, specialising in manufacturing and repair. So if you are looking for any of those type of services in and around the Abu Dhabi area or the Middle East, what I suggest you do is go to quipco.com, find out what they do in terms of their services, their products, their manufacturing and repair, and you never know, they might be able to help. Right, let me just see if there's any other comments. Okay, so we'll come on to the UEFA Cup and the Super Cup in just a moment. Mad Mark says, I wonder about the fitness of some of our players, as some don't seem to be able to play the full 90. Ryan is here. How are we doing, Ryan? He says, let's hope for a win tomorrow. Come on, you Reds. Mad Mark says, we need to run into the box more. 100%, mate. Bob Duff says, I drive past Cormac Park at least twice a day, late morning. Hardly ever see the players on the training pictures. Is that right, Bob? I'd be really interested to know, actually, what is their training schedule? Because usually players have to report for about 8:30, 9 o'clock, give or take. And they're usually out on the training field by about 10. And it's quite normal to train for a couple of hours and then go in and get their rubs, their lunch, massages, maybe a wee bit in the gym, rehabilitation, all that sort of stuff. Sometimes there's double sessions, but I think that's quite rare. I can't see us having a double session today, for example. Not a chance. They would have got back from Prague. They would have done a nice, easy session, I would have suggested this morning. Had a rub, and I reckon they would have been on the bus down to Glasgow today. So maybe they would have done something a little bit more this morning before they set off for Glasgow. But I can't see them doing any sort of double sessions. Kenny Luke says, don't get me wrong, Celtic are there for the taking. I just urge caution. The West Coast press will absolutely love us being beaten. Bob Dove says, interesting. I don't think so, Mark. 9 a.m, 11 a.m, 1 p.m. Never see them on the grass. Really? That's interesting. Wow. That is interesting. So don't see them at 9, don't see them at 11, don't see them at 1. So when on earth are they training? Right, let's get back to those two games. The Super Cup. Oh, by the way, talking about Neil Simpson, who obviously scored in that game at Pittodrie. Have you seen he's got an autobiography coming out, written by the brilliant Neil Drysdale? It's due out on the 11th of May. It's obviously his Aberdeen story, an autobiography, if you like. The foreword written by the boss, Sir Alex Ferguson. Really, really looking forward to reading this. You can pre-order the book already, so maybe a nice wee Christmas present if you're struggling to think of something still. So the Super Cup. Now, just indulge me for a moment and forgive me if some of you have already heard this story, but if you are a newcomer to the channel and you're watching for the first time, I love telling this story because sadly both of my parents have passed now. And what I do is I use football to serve their memory. And football is now my tool to remember my mum and dad. And for the Super Cup, my dad managed to get myself and him a ticket. We were in the main stand. But what was quite unusual was that we were quite further. In fact, where were we now? So, you know, you got the first part of the main stand, then you've got that first sort of 10 rows or something. Then you've got the wall, and then it goes up again. So we were sat literally right in front of that sort of section where the wall is before you go down into the final section. And when we scored our second goal, my dad came out of his seat like a jack in the box. And I'd never really seen my dad do that. My dad was, as much as he loved the Dons and he was really passionate about them, he was quite a passive supporter. I would never see him get up and go mental, shouting and swearing, anything like that. He never used to do that. He always used to sit quite politely and watch the football. But when we scored that second goal, honestly, I'd never seen it before. And I remember, you know, I've still got the picture in my head of looking up at him like this. And he was just doing this. He was just punching, going, yes, yes, yes. And I kind of almost put my old celebration on hold to watch him. And it's something I've never forgotten all these years later, was that celebration. So it's a way that I kind of remember my parents now, is to remember moments like that. The game against Copenhagen, I just moved to Singapore. I was in Singapore. And Red TV had only just started. So I was able to watch the game on Red TV. And got told off the next morning from my neighbours. I got a letter put under my door from the management asking me to be a little bit more conscious of making noise at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd only just moved in. I hadn't been that long in the apartment and I'm already getting a letter of complaint from the management. But what a night. Unbelievable. A lot of people have suggested that Copenhagen night was on par with Bayern Munich. Now, it would be very wrong of me to argue that case because I wasn't at the Copenhagen game, so I'm not versed enough to say it. So I have to take people's words for it, that it was on, the atmosphere was on par with the game against Bayern Munich back in 1983. Right, let's finish off with just some more of your comments. Bob came back to say, can't wait for Simi's book to come out. Will be interesting if he mentions that tackle and the effect it had on him. Bob, actually, it's a really good point because, you know, I'm in a very lucky position that I know Neil well and I've known him really well for a number of years. And sometimes on socials, I've seen, you know, doctored pictures of that tackle and people talking about it. And I can tell you that Neil is extremely uncomfortable with it. You know, when people tag him in and all that sort of stuff, it's, you know, it was an isolated incident. And I think if you were to sit him down I think he would say, in regards to the stuff that gets put on socials, that he's actually really, really uncomfortable about it. But Bob, you're absolutely right. It would be really interesting to see if he does talk about it. Mad Mark says, the problem with Kevin Nisbet is he is a striker, but for some reason doesn't do the things that make him successful. He wants to go to get the ball, but he's supposed to finish it, the chances that he makes. Yeah, I get your point. Bob says, in terms of the training, I'm not suggesting we train 8 hours a day, but even for tactical reasons alone, you think we'd be on the training pitches 10 to 12 most days. I know for a fact that ordinarily Jimmy gives them Monday off. Al Hay says, I agree with the earlier comments that we should have a go and play Nisbet and Lazetic up front. Nisbet plays better behind a front man, but I think Yimi is brave enough but I don't think Yimi is brave enough to do it. I agree, Al. I don't think he's also brave enough to do it. Mad Mark says, if Nisbet really wants to get back in the Scotland squad, he's going to have to start scoring more goals. Bob Duff says, it's very strange why we don't appear to train as much as you think as an elite club would. Actually, it's a really interesting point that you make, Bob, and that you bring up. I might do a little bit more digging into that and see what we can find out. Right, guys, I'm going to call it a night. So, all that's left to say, as we always do at this juncture, is to wish the lads the very best of luck tomorrow. Like what we're all saying, is just have a go. Just please lay a glove on them. Go for the jugular. They're a wounded animal. They're hurting. They're hurting badly. And their manager knows that nothing but a win yesterday is going to be acceptable for the fans, for the board, for the players, you could argue. So he is under a huge amount of pressure. So what we have to do is we have to go there and we have to unsettle them from the off. We have to hurt them. It's as simple as that. Please, all we ask is be brave tomorrow. Probably be braver than any other game since the cup final. And I honestly think we can get a result tomorrow. I really do. Thank you for being with me. We will be back on Monday for the review show. Let's hope it's a good one and a memorable one. Enjoy your Saturday evening. Enjoy your Sunday. Thanks for watching. Stand free.